Okay. I honor you for watching. I had to do a little bit of a clearing, if you will. I had to listen to some frequencies to give myself some space because it's been all consuming. So sometimes I have to remind myself, okay, clear your energy, clear your energy, clear your energy, clear your energy when you know what you're dealing with. So I took some time to clear my energy, okay? Um, and it was great. It was awesome. It felt really good, really soothing. Just allow myself to come back to me because, again, when you're dealing with all this stuff, I mean, we are not entirely immune, okay, to just the contamination. That's the whole thing. So when you are really surrounded by a lot of stuff, okay, and people that hate your guts, okay, and because of the fact that you are standing up, speaking out, saying certain things, that's happening to you, okay. um, yeah, you're going to feel that. And then they will definitely, this series that we'll be doing is going to talk about I'll be talking about what they do to my son and basically, how they used him, okay, what they did to him in the name of um, torturing him. Because again, these individuals they do not have a compass of that gauges for them inside that says, hey, this is a little bit too much. That's too far. You know what? Check yourself. You're doing the most. They don't have those gauges, these types of folks that we're referencing, okay? For them, they don't care. Sometimes they even have it in for these types. Um, and when it's an extreme hatred for you, then this is what it becomes, okay? It's anything connected to you, your children, your animals, your hobbies, your everything, okay? So in this series, we'll be talking about specifically, and since my son is a neurodivergent, he is high function autistic, we're going to talk about the things they do to them. Because it's not just him, it's what these types do to folks like him. Okay, so this is going to be letting you all kind of learn about the stuff that they're doing because they're susceptible. Okay, they don't. That's one of the primary reasons. Okay, so in other words, it's very easy to do hypnosis on them. It's very easy to do all these weird things. Okay, they did all that to my son. Okay, but in this they did and do. But in this video, we're going to talk about something specific because I want to narrow it down. There's too many things, and it'll be all over the place if I were to talk about all the things in which they do to him. Okay? Okay, and it's disgusting. And I don't see how any of them are holding their head high. I don't see how any of them are smiling. I don't see how any of them look in the mirror. I don't see how any of them, that's just me. Okay, but then I have conscious. You see what I'm saying? So that makes sense for somebody like me. Um, but so I think the title says something abuse by proxy. So here's what happened with my son in specific, and this is what is very common. They knew that, he was the closest thing to me and would always be. Okay? He was the closest thing to me and would always be. And if at the end of the day, they couldn't manage to really get that done by keeping me in some kind of a toxic connection with friends, with, associates, lovers, or whatever, that the one person that would be the closest to me indefinitely would be my son. Okay? And believe it or not, no matter what story they have tried to create, manufacture, and what abuse they've tried to create in order to make the story true, they know that I've always loved my son and that as I grew from a young woman, I faced some of the darkest things about being a young mother that some of them never did. Okay? And how it impacted him as a young woman when I was in my, what I'm saying, young woman, totally just, yeah. Okay. um, and so I faced those things. I looked at them dead in the eye, over the years, um, and really was trying to work very hard at becoming a good parent. I educated myself about him. He was diagnosed. I made sure that I got educated about it. I like literally, not just self-education. I took some classes. It was a program he was in. I don't want to get off track, but he was in a program. California is excellent for the autistic community. Beautiful programs, highly recommend, with the exception of some other shit. Anyway, but I'm just saying they have lots of stuff, tons of goodies, tons of stuff for them. And I took full advantage of that when he was diagnosed. Okay. And once that happened for me, it changed me as a mother, and it made me look at my own stuff and you know what I was projecting on him and all that. But anyway, that's not what we're here to get into. Um, they knew that I would go to bat for him, that I possibly had guilt, because see, you do have to process all that. You feel bad. At least those of us are still bleeding red. At least, those of us still got, we ain't all together, just entity overran forever, ever. You know, um, you feel bad when you come to. You understand? That's how you know you're growing and changing and evolving, because it's like you can't at you it ain't settling with you. You feel bad about it, like, oh wow, like you know. And as a result, you try to change and evolve and be better. And they knew that I had guilt about that, and that there was a fine line I was trying to balance, but it's challenging because you feel bad about how you hurt them and what they were subject to, and so you may overcompensate, and you may all these different things. Okay, so they also get off on the abuse by proxy is they do things to them to make them act out. Okay, because remember I said that they're open and susceptible more so, okay, than the average. Okay, they don't have their inner child, their energy, their aura, it's already compromised, and they don't have those things there. So it is very, very, very easy to do. That you can put a domination, you can do all those things. That's why some of these folks get into some of the sicker shit we'll talk about on another video. Okay, because again, the gullibility, they don't, and you can easily do some Ursula C. witchy, you know, low-key, weird shit. You can do a love spell on them. You can do all kinds of weird things to them, okay? But for this video, I want to just stick on the part about how they will use that against the target. That the target's autistic or neurodivergent child, okay? Especially as they become adults. How they would do that to get them to abuse by proxy. Now, here is what they want to accomplish with it. Believe it or not, it's not simply just to have them, they're mad about the love and they're mad about the relationship, of course, that I built and created with my son. But anybody that's operating in a love frequency and becoming a better person, not just I buy shit parent, and that's why I'm a good parent, and that's why my kid, like that kind of thing. Okay, they're jealous of that, because most of the time that's not the connections that they have with their children. Most of the time, not all the time, most of the time their relationships are based on fear and control and buying shit. And so the love and respect you think you're seeing displayed is not really what you think it is. Okay, um and so they hate that, and so there's like, I want to mess that up. So they basically will do a chaos and a conflict on them. And they are open, not that they want to, but they are open, especially if they got the traumas. They're going to play on all of those things. in order to wear out the target. They're hoping that the target would eventually get physically hurt by them, possibly, if it's possible. But they're also wanting to create the same thing they've been doing. They're trying to create a story and a narrative that the target is abusive or the target is inept of with handling the situation. So that because they're not going to be sharing that they're doing baneful works, that they're sitting up there doing, mind control, mental magic, and sending entities and all that shit. They're going to sit up there and talk about Bible, Jesus, holy, holy, hallelujah, amen, in the name of Jesus. Okay, that's what they're going to say to the people that they want to believe, that they want to believe that they're not into that kind of stuff or that they're not doing those things. Okay, so they're doing that constantly because, again, remember, they want the target miserable. This is what they've been doing to me. They knew he would be the one person. Guess what? The one person outside of myself. Think about that. Outside of myself, that I'm never what? Without. So how can you abuse this person without being able to actually do it energetically? And I'm starting to call it the new, like, spiritual bullies. The new thing. Collapsed, covert, vulnerable narcissists that were bullies. And the new thing is baneful work. They don't have proper, conflict resolution. They don't have proper self-reflection. They don't have proper, they don't know or don't want to in a healthy sense. Okay. Is it raining, maybe? Oh, shit. Well, okay. Good. Cleanse. That's how I look at it. Earlier it was raining, and I was like, let's take advantage of it. Cleanse, purify, please purify, activate by the fire. Shit. Clean this uncleanness off of. I took advantage of it. I did because you can do that, by the way. Another video. It's like has potential to be very purifying, very healing. It may be a mess, we may be a hot mess. You're out there in the rain, but boy, if you're trying to get some gunk, then you got people attacking you, all kinds of debris and black goo, sheet cube, parasite, It's like, shit, activate and purify 33. Just kidding. Not kidding. But anyway, so this is one of the supreme ways to get to abuse the target every day. Another way they do it, the abuse by proxy, is not just getting them to argue or be, because they'll do that sometime. They'll call in an inferno until, yeah, that's another video too. To basically take over until we do what we do to handle it. But that's not the only thing that they're doing to do the abuse by proxy. They handicap them even further than they were. Their progress is halted by these types of people. Okay, so because their health is being attacked, all this stuff is happening to them. Their health and their well-being, they're cursing them, they're sending death to them, they're sending entities to them, they're torturing them in their sleep, they're doing all sorts of shit. Yes, sir. And they do that because some of the autistics, they don't know, some of us don't. They don't know how to, they don't know how to explain any. You see what I'm saying? It's happening, and people look at them and they may manifest or act out. And since humans are ignorant most of the time, in most cases, until we are not. But since we are, we'll just look at them like, oh my God, something is wrong with them. You don't say. But nigga, it ain't even what you think. Yeah, dumb. You know what I'm saying? Okay? While you're sitting there talking about folk, you don't know nothing but you're talking. You have no knowledge. And then when they one day have a kid, oof. Get off of that one. So, because funny how shit change. It's funny how shit change. When you end up being on the receiving end, or getting a front row view of needing to face that. Now the sudden could anyway. So that's to wear me out, okay? Because again, it's to handicap them further than they were. It's to regress them. It's to infantile them in some ways. Where there's ways where they're super mature and they can handle some stuff, but they'll do rituals and different things to affect them to where it's like I and the collective has to go above, like do extra, like way, way, way extra. Like we are dealing with an eternal preschooler in some areas of their lives, which is taxing if you've been doing this for 25 years plus. Okay? And you see here's where this is where the abuse by proxy, it still applies. Because again, they want the collective, they want me and they want the collectives to have a horrible life. They want you tortured, tormented, beat down, worn down, drained. Why? Because they got problems that they're not dealing with. That's the quickest and easiest answer I could provide, because technically I can't diagnose, nor do I believe I need to. But at the end of the day, because I don't need to, in order to assess abusive behavior. Okay? They mad at you because whatever. These are people who don't know how to deal with that stuff properly. Okay? Or they just simply are entitled. In some cases, it's entitled. And if there's enough money on the table, hey, why not? Ain't my kid. Ain't my relative. Why not? That's the real attitude that people have. I don't care what they pretending to be for their social media platforms or their businesses. That's what they are. Okay? At least the ones that this applies to. Okay? Because again, no connection. It's like, that ain't good. That don't got nothing to do with me. That ain't my, woo. Mm-hmm. Oh, they'll be all right. And people really get real creative, but that's all. They'll be fine. They'll be all right. Mm-hmm. Dehumanize. Because that's what that is. They dehumanize my son. They objectified him and dehumanized him. Like he not a whole being, just like the rest of us out here. And some of us is really a whole goddamn waste. Okay? Just catastrophe, just a menace. You know what I'm saying? Menace, menace to society and shit. But they're just as much. But because of people's ignorances, their prejudices, or one thing and another, they'll be okay. Are you gonna be saying that? I don't think you are. But anywho, so that I could be in this eternal nursemaid type of energy. Meanwhile, I'm also being attacked. You see that? Meanwhile, they're also doing other things in my life too, and it's the abuse by proxy. Instead of the loving, because like I said, I built a relationship with my son, so that's kind of like those relationship spell type things that they do, where it's like forcing him to be an NPC when he is not NPC, he's neurodivergent, and it looks very similar. But the bottom line is, even though he's not NPC, it's still to get the same tiring effect of one, even though it's not coming from the same space. You see that? Got to over explain. They can have a tendency to be a little disconnected and over consumed. They're not always as emotional or warm. All of the things where you feel like you're giving and they don't, there's a disconnect, where it's almost like your servitude. When it comes to narcissistic relationships, whether people know this to be true or not, if that's what you're dealing with, it is transactional, baby. Period. Okay? period. It is null and void of any real, and I'm going to say real emphasis, any real love, warmth, depth beyond the exchanges of what one's getting. Okay? So it's reduced to servitude, like you're some kind of nursemaid, reduced to what you deal with children, obviously. But most of us, when they grow past a certain phase, that phase ends. That's usually the children phase, huh? So that's the abuse by proxy. Um, da, da, da. And so you have to go above and beyond. You have to do a lot extra than you would if had their energy not been manipulated. Their development had much more potential. And all of that is also comes down to a desire to make you, me, us, look like we're inept, because that's the truth about them. I have to say that is the truth, and it's how they truly feel, even though they put on a good show with all the things that, the external. But it is to create and manufacture. See, they're not that good of a parent. See, they're not, you see, they're arguing. They're upset. They're not going to tell you that they kind of instigated it, initiated it, and manufactured that. See that? They don't do none of that, not that part, because they too busy hiding, talking about holy, holy. But they're not telling you that their hands is in stuff. Okay? Now, that's the spiritual and energetic side. And it's a whole lot of that they do, because once the target, especially once the target puts up these boundaries and they start separating themselves, they really do that then, because how else are you going to do it? But other ways, in the physical sense of abuse by proxy is, they try to restrict that person's, the disabled person's resources, as well as the collective's resources, and the collective is still responsible. Follow where I'm going. That's the more physical side. Okay, because I talked about the energetic and the spiritual, which is heavy, and it needs to be noted, and it is a thing. Mainstream world may not want to acknowledge it, but powers that be and other individuals know full the fuck well what I'm talking about. So I'm not finna play that little Mickey Mouse game. Okay? So we talk about how they want to affect our resources as a target individual. Absolutely, because they're trying to disrupt our foundation. Okay? Essentially, it's coercive control. It's all of those little things, okay? And it's quiet, and this is what makes these types of things insidious, because it ain't somebody just running up to you, slapping you in the face. Or it's not somebody that's just blatantly allowing it to be seen. Oh, look at me, I'm breaking in your house. Oh, look at me, I'm in here putting poison in your shit. Oh, look at me. Like they're not going to. It's disguised as I'm a mail person delivering a package. It's disguised as I'm a maintenance person doing the maintenance. It's disguised as, you see what I'm saying? Not only that, when it comes to like people in positions of control or power, abusing that to make sure things are more challenging than it would be normally. And whether people want to accept that or not, that's a thing. And if the target, it happens to be in a location, because each location is going to maybe have a little different vibe, but if they're in a location where it's smaller and definitely easier to do, if the powers that be are all interconnected, then that is exactly what they do. Make things more difficult than it has to be. And it'll come under the guise of, this is the process. This is the process. This is the process. Bullshit. But that is what they do, again, abuse by proxy. If nothing but if they could just delay, if they can delay it or just make it frustrating, that's still abuse by proxy. And it's utilizing the child or the adult, neurodivergent, and the fact that the adult is responsible, because guess what, it's all designed and to come out in the wash to make the target, it's the period, point blank, nigga, to make them appear to be what they're not. Oh, they can't get it together. And you're wrong, because I had it together and it drew people bonkers. You lying. It drew them bonkers. They couldn't fade it. They couldn't fade it. They couldn't handle that. Yeah, it was hard. And yeah, you know, we did it alone. And yeah, it wasn't the easiest thing, but it was being done like a boss, baby. Couldn't handle that, because that wasn't the narrative that was going to fit their long-term goals of what they've been trying to do in the first place from the very beginning. So this is abuse by proxy. Utilize the fact that they're a parent and make it difficult for them to parent. Oh, good gravy. Use the fact that they're a parent or that they're a caregiver of adult disabled, whatever the case, and then make it all kind of crazy, dumb, stupid, unnecessary. And then turn around to see, they're not able to, you making it virtually impossible, because you're making it impossible because that's what you want to do, and got nothing to do with that person being inept, and got nothing to do with them not being able to handle the affairs of their life. It has nothing to do with none of that. Everything to do with people playing God in the name of abuse, in the name of abusing that person by proxy, period, point blank. And I don't care if it's ranging for because somebody crooked then came to them and offered them something, because it's going to be a wider range of reasons why it happens. Somebody found out somebody got some insurance, some inheritance, and they're going around offering people, do this, and I'll give you this and that. Because that's a thing and it happens. So that it can make the collective, me, y'all, look like you're losers, look like you're a slacker, look like unhinged and unfocused and flighty, and making you look like you're weak and feeble and all those things, and you're handling more shit than they can handle. Man, you handling more shit than them on their best day, nigga. Their life is a concentrated effort of a group. So it's real easy to walk around acting like you sadiddy. It's a whole group effort for that sadiddiness. But that is essentially how they do that. Like, oh, they can't handle, they can't handle. Y'all been handling shit like a boss. You proved everybody wrong, and that was a part of the problem. We'll see how long they'll be okay before we'll see. And so then they decide, well, let's manufacture scarcity. Let's manufacture the scarcity then. Let's sabotage that so we can force them to have to be beggars. Well, surely they'll come back, and so we can look like we were right. hmm And if they can't do that, then they want to be able to do it by proxy. We're talking about that. hmm These are all tactics of needing to, because there's an undertone of sadistic, sadist energy, the energy of needing you to be punished and suffer for something that is out of this world. For what? Being existing? For existing? For what? Nobody, see, the thing about all of that is nobody ever really want to know or ask. And if they do, it's smoke and mirrors. It's smoke and mirrors. Because there's nothing that could be said that would deem any of these types of things that these folks do, deem it appropriate. Nothing. Case in point, the collective on their side of it, they get their hearts broken by the very family in which we're talking about, or lovers, whatever. And what do they do? What do they do? I didn't leave and go decide I wanted to do a shit ton of spell work on my mother, father, sisters, brothers, nieces, nephews, aunties, because that didn't happen. That wasn't my vibe. It wasn't my vibe, ever my vibe. In all of it, when I was upset, when I was angry, when I was hurt, when I felt I was done some kind of way, when I was blah, 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 blah. When I felt like they dogged me out, when I felt like they, overreacted to some things, my life didn't become me wanting to basically have them not here because of it. That's the difference between them and me. I'm saying this to say, this is to help us recognize things, because this whole, blah, 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 mm-mm. Because, okay, so they're angry. Okay, does the collective not get angry and hurt? Legitimately so? Because some of them are upset. It's not even it's not legitimate. It's delusional. It's entitled. It's something else. It's not even a real thing. It's like, oh, they mad because the collective is assertive and they don't like that, and that made them want to send a death ritual. Like, that ain't normal. Sure, there, you're good. That's not. Look, it's not. What we did is we went on, and we attempted several attempts long before, like, the world at large knew. That's the part nobody will ever really know, because you're not in the background of people's lives before they start speaking. So the world may not necessarily know the fact that, hey, this collective person, they've made a trillion attempts of healthy, adult, loving communication, to no avail, as is any typical narcissistic dynamic. You're going to have a headache. You're going to leave more confused than you started. And chances are, depending on how dangerous the situation is, you're going to end up possibly more hurt, because they're going to take you down the rabbit hole of gaslighting, Darvel effect. They're going to take you down that whole shit. So the collective, us, how did we handle? Oh, we were upset and we didn't like something, and they hurt our feelings, and they said this and they did that, and they didn't do this, and they didn't do that, and they blah say this and blah, da, 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 da. How did we handle it? We owned it. We felt it. We did attempt to have healthy conversations about it. We did attempt to go to some so-called older, mature folks in the family. We did, what I'm saying, attempt all these things until we got to our wits' end and said, I must heal. I must do what's right or correct for myself and my children, and honor what I know. This is going nowhere. This is negatively impacting me and my children. I'm done having conversations with people who are hell-bent on confusing me and gaslighting me. So I'm going to go on. I'm going to find my way. It ain't going to be perfect, but I'm going to find my way. And my creative way is I will speak, because oftentimes the victim is silenced by everyone because it's uncomfortable. Society likes to run nice and smooth and fluffy, and they don't want to deal with that. They want to, I want to deal with that. That's too much. It's too much. It's too messy. It's too ugly. It's gonna open too many can of worms. Could you just take it and quiet and be the bigger person? And that's easy to do when you're not on the receiving end, when it is not you or your children that is basically being asked to just shut up and take the abuse and pretend the abuse is not happening at the same time. But to smile and be productive in society and all of those things, though. I'm going to end this with saying this. I made a comment, I think, on a video, possibly earlier. I know people get offended. I have an edge. Okay, I'm going to say this. I know that I have an edge. I have an edge, boy. Especially if you take me there. Good gravy. I was like, ooh, Queen of Swords. That is my grandmother. um, oh, it's raw, too. Boy, shit. It make you feel like your wig is on fire. Okay? I get it. Sometimes I even shock myself. Okay? It'll come later, and I'll stop and I'll just go, did I say that out loud? Well, my eyes looking like to the left, like, did I say that? Did I say that? See, even I am shocked sometimes. But what I want to say is this. I get that I can be raunchy and raw and can be kind of like, and it's like, oh my gosh, she's like, I own it. I own that too. I'm not going to even water it down. It can seem like, oh, rough. In my opinion, it's fitting for what has been done. What I feel like a lot of abusers and a lot of folks aren't capable of doing is properly matching reaction or consequence with an event. So I feel like it's fitting for the level of depravity and abuse that has been afflicted and continues to be on me and my son. So it's not about being raunchy and neck rolly and better than type vibe. It's the audacity. And society, in my opinion, is booty butt backwards, where the victims are constantly under ridicule for not being polished. Okay, not being calm, cool, collected, streamlined, governed, and all of those things. And it's like, oh, that is so offensive. You'll hear folks saying, "Oh my gosh, you can." Oh my God, that is so vulgar. That is so extra. Like, people have their feelings, right? But here's where I stand on it. I've made a comment once, and I said, and I think this is something some people may take offense of. There was a time I made a comment on something. I said, they need to be put down like the rabid dogs. I did. I said that. I said they need to be put down like a rabid dog. A rabid dog, if you're familiar with diseases and stuff, like some stuff will happen to them. It's like the owner or the people may not want to do it, but like they're wilding out. They got the disease. They biting people. They can't control their capacities, and it's a problem. And the doctor and the family has to make the call because it's like they're not themselves. They're a rabid dog. And I think one time I said that. I made a comment. I was like, they need to be put down like a rabid dog. And I know that there were people was offended by that. So what I want to propose is to the world, I can understand and respect your viewpoint. But I invite you to ask yourself this question when you're ready to be just a matter of factly honest with yourself. What's worse? Is it the rabid dog behavior or someone speaking on the fact that someone treated them as such? When do we turn to the rabid dog behavior abusers, and what they continually do and deal with that versus trying to convince survivors and victims that they need to polish their pain? Because the greater offense is not the person who felt like they need to be put down like a rabid dog. The greater offense is the fact that somebody behaved as such when they claim to be a human being, yet conducting as if they are a rabid dog. And a rabid dog is going to be hedonistic, cruel in nature, just like the Walking Dead. Many of us are looking for or waiting for the day where the end time apocalypse will look something like that, and it's not. Ain't even no really such thing. But the whole point is it's already that kind of vibe is here because of the dehumanizing and objectifying of other humans. So behaviors and things, not thinking about how that's going to impact, or just downright not even caring. That is the definition of the Walking Dead. And that is the definition of how a rabid dog is not going to have a conscience. It's not going to sit there and calculate and look into their heart and sense if that's really the right thing to do or not. It's not going to consider if that person's got a mother or father. It's not going to do any of that. It's going to be a rabid dog and say, I see dollar signs. I see food. Yum. Simple as that. And that is what they've done to my son and me. And what they continue to attempt to do. Because at the end of the day, that behavior, the things that they've been doing to me and my son, is just that. We can fancy it up all we want. Oh, we don't trust her. Oh, we don't like what she believes. Oh, we don't, she really, we don't like what she says. Oh, like we can find whatever we want to find. But none of it is still going to qualify for the stuff that these people have been doing. If I were to be this nature with folks that I don't like or have a problem with, half of Texas be gone. That's not my call to make. I'm an adult. If I have a problem with somebody, this is life. I don't have to engage. I don't have to deal with them. They don't have to deal with me. But I'm not the switch holder person. I don't get to determine that. At least I should have enough sense to know that that ain't my jurisdiction. Whether or not they should live or not, whether or not they should have quality of life, whether or not they should have human and civil rights. That's not my call to make. And that's not something these people, apparently, they don't have that. And this is something I speak out on, and this is a part of why, as you can see on the screen, it's me that they follow.